Adam West, Adam West, you're the best, Adam West, Adam West, Adam West. Hey, everybody, welcome to day number 5. This is the Johnny 5 is Alive episode. I'm not sure who will get that reference, but it's not that obscure, is it? Anyways, so we're back. I'm back. And yesterday was a really good day. And today's getting off to be a really good day as well. So far, so good. Everything looks good. Everything looks good on my screen. I messed around a little bit this morning with lighting, so you can see I'm a little bit more washed out than normal, I guess. But I did shave this morning, so you get that. Hola, Alex. Hola, Tyler. Hello, Alex. Hola, Tyler. Yeah, so what's what? Well, like I said, yesterday was really good. Picked up basically about 100 subscribers. More than that, actually. I think I blew past the 100 subscriber mark. The milestone and why I'm sort of in a positive mental latitude today is has to do with the t-shirt I'm wearing, which is a lenticular Astro Boy shirt. And I bought this shirt 15 years ago on my first trip to Japan. And it's a Japanese XL. And when I bought it 15 years ago, I couldn't fit into it. It was too small for me, but it was the largest size that they had. If you know anything about, buying clothing in Japan, which I happen to be an expert on for some reason, their sizes are considerably smaller than ours. So this is a Japanese XL. I used to wear like 3XL, 2XL North American sizes. And when shopping in Japan for clothing, I always shopped at the big and tall shop there called Sakazen, or it was called Zen Mall, then it was Sakazen. Yes, exactly. I'll get to that. But yeah, so this, you can, of course, just like on cue comes the jackhammers. So this shirt I bought 15 years ago. I couldn't fit into it. And it sat in my closet, brand new, for 15 years. And every few years or so, like every 5 years, I'd find it and be like, oh yeah, I remember buying that shirt. And I'd try it on. It was still too tight. Literally, look, I still have the tags on it. That's how ridiculous I am about the shirt that I bought 15 years ago. And you probably can't see the tag, but that's a Japanese XL that I bought in Harajuku in 2005. When I went with my not even my fiance yet, but that was my first trip to Japan, May 2005, and I bought this shirt in Harajuku because I grew up with Astro Boy. That's what we called him over here. Over there, he's the Mighty Atom or Atomu. So I when I was a kid, and if you were a child of the 80s, I guess. Global TV in Toronto at like 5:36 a.m. in the morning would play episodes of Astro Boy, English dubs of Astro Boy, and I used to watch those, and that was my very earliest memories of what I would call my exposure to anime. I didn't know what it was anime. It was just animation, right? It was just a cartoon with a weird style, and this guy with big eyes, this guy here, the Mighty Atom. So yeah, anyways, I put this shirt on this morning, and it fits. Like I'm gonna stand up here. It fits, and that is a huge milestone for me. So as good as getting like blowing past the 100 subscriber marks for this channel was today, being able to put this 15-year-old shirt on and actually have it fit is a bigger milestone. And then I think Alex sort of spoiled it in the chat where he said, go keto. Yeah, I've been in ketosis for 3 months now, and I've been regularly losing about 5 pounds a week. And I would say that back in like January, February, I was probably the heaviest I had been in a long, long time. My weight always yo-yoed, and it took sort of a real change in philosophy, like personal philosophy, to get onto something. And it was actually my kid who was like, "Daddy, you need to lose weight." And I was like, "Okay, let's do that." Like I just like literally a light switch off in my head. and I just decided that I was done. I was done being a big tubby guy, and wanted to. So yeah. So anyways, I'm super happy that I'm able to wear this T-shirt today, and I'm never gonna wash it. So I'm probably just gonna take it off after this and fold it back up and put it back in the closet and see what it looks like in another 15 years. No. And I got the judge here, Joseph Dredd, sitting up here. He was briefly on the stream yesterday near the end when I sort of dropped my feeling on how much Necromunda, the idea of Necromunda, which you can see the art here, and my slideshow's all kinds of funky right now, because I guess I did something with the alignment, and I'm not going to fix it right now, like whatever, because we're going to go to the overhead pretty soon, and I'm going to start paint some mesher, but I just thought I would bring up how good a mood I'm in today because of these various reasons. So much so that I put up some decorations in the back there. While I was digging and while I found this shirt, I found some other stuff that I bought in Japan. Tyler, who's in the chat, probably would recognize maybe some of this and this. There's another one over here on this side over here on the wall that you can't really see. But I picked those up at Ryogoku Kokugikan, which is the sumo arena in Tokyo. And for a few years back, I was a big sumo fan. See, Tyler says I have a Hakuo one. Yeah. Well, this one's got handprints of all. So this is, I think that's from 2016. So it would have had handprints from all the yokozunas and all the ozekis at that time. And in 2016, I think there were 4 yokozunas, because was what's his name? Kiseno Sato, was he a yokozuna at the time? Doesn't matter. This is not a sumo channel. We can talk sumo another day. If you've never watched sumo, yeah, I think there were 3 in 2016, because I don't think what's his name, Kiseni Sato, had been promoted yet. I don't think he was promoted until later to bring in the 4th. So you had the 2 Mongolians, and who was the other guy? Hakuo, Haramafuji, and Kiseno Sato. No, doesn't matter. What's his face? The bad one. Yeah, the one that didn't he? Isn't that the one that they forced to retire because he got caught in a bar with some Yakuza guys or something, and so he was forced to retire. Of course, it's all about Hakuo. I mean, if you know who Hakuo is, he's the Mongolian. He's got like. Anyways. Off sumo topic, let's talk about Necromunda, I guess. Because, yeah, I guess that's what we're going to do today. Kakuryu, that's it. Yeah. Kakuryu was also... They were all Mongolian. All 3 of them were Mongolian. It was Haramafuji. Yeah, he hit someone with a bottle in a bar fight. There you go. Thanks. I can always count on someone to have greater sumo knowledge than I. But just remember, Tyler, you wouldn't be into sumo if it wasn't for me. No, please, more sumo. Okay, so my favorite sumo wrestler is Koto Shogiku, and because previous to that, I don't even think Koto Shogiku is, I think he's retired as well. You love sumo because of me, exactly. Well, I love sumo because I guess I could identify with them, especially in Japan, where you're this rather large human being in a country full of slightly smaller human beings. You become very aware of your size and displacement in the world, how much space you take up when you're in a country like Japan. But we can talk about Japan another day. And we can talk about sumo another day. And we can talk about... You need to get back on the sumo train. The current tournament is really good. You know what? I should start watching sumo again. I stopped watching it because if anyone's watched sumo, it's a pageantry in a lot of ways. Most of the time is spent on ring entrances. It's like the matches themselves, 10 seconds is a long sumo match. generally you have these preps and these in this ceremony because it's an extremely old sport. I think they can trace the actual organized current version of the sport back like a couple thousand years, or at least, and they say at least 500 years in terms of like the current lineage and rule set and stuff. So it's an ancient sport, probably one of the most ancient wrestling that is still practiced, and it's really only practiced in Japan. I think there was some guy in the United States tried to start up an American sumo tournament where they wore the traditional sumo garb, but then they would be wearing like Spanx underneath or whatever, right? Spandex pants or something. So, okay, Tyler, I will get back on the sumo train, but for right now, yeah, exactly. The referee outfits, and it all does. I mean, it's funny when, like, there are very, very old traditions in Japan. Like, women are not allowed on the sumo ring. Like, it's forbidden, and that's just a thing in Japan that isn't really a big deal. It's an accepted. It's a religious thing. It's ceremonial. It's traditional, and I know that there are some women sumo groups out there, but I think that they would respect that sort of that ancient whatever. Glad to catch up with the live ones. Keep up the good work, man. Thanks, Torben. Yeah. If you've joined us, we're talking about sumo wrestling for some reason. We're not talking about miniatures right now. But anyways, I am going to switch to the master shot, and I guess we'll look at some miniatures, and we'll talk about some miniatures, and I'm going to paint. And what do I got for you today? Oh, I've got a big red dot in the middle of a filthy screen here. Let me just tuck in here. Sorry about the tremors. You started it. It's true, I did start it. All right, so what do I got? Well, I'm still painting my Escher. So I'm still painting my champs, my matriarch, who's my champion, plus my ganger specialist here. I've changed the zoom. I've zoomed in a little bit more on the stream, and if you guys can let me know how that looks, because the autofocus tends to lose it. So I may actually have to zoom out slightly just to sort of increase my depth of field so that this looks better. But I got some feedback again that it seems to be hard to see what I'm doing while I'm painting. And I don't want that. I want you guys to be able to see what I'm painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to zoom out. Pardon the tremors again. I'm going to zoom out just a titch, like a tiny, tiny amount, not even a significant amount. And hopefully that gives the camera a little bit more space in which to work. The zoom is better than before, so you actually think that it was better the other way. And I did increase the lighting as well. I really pumped up my lights, which is why I'm so washed out now, especially on this side of my face. This side I'm very washed out, which is funny because my lamp is actually what's washing me out, not necessarily the overheads. But I need the lamp. I've got all the lighting I can possibly squeeze onto this little table to make it as easy as possible for you guys to see. So you guys can see what I sort of worked on the other day, which I haven't really done much. I essentially painted, I base coated the flesh. And if you happen to catch my preview show from this morning where I was testing this new lighting and the new zoom, you can see that I painted on this flesh this morning. I finished the red. The leather will still need some work, so the black will still need some work, and then there's obviously details, but what I did was I put her flesh on, and then I washed it with GW Flesh Wash, Reichland Flesh Shade. And here's another one. I did the same thing here, so the red that I painted the other day, the black, which is still a work in progress, but I blocked out the flesh and then washed it. And I've got two here that have not been washed yet. But first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these, which I haven't actually even put flesh on yet. So I've got these two, the Beastmaster girl and the other bow girl, the not Hunger Games girl. So we'll open up my palette here, which looks fantastic on screen, I'm sure. And I've got a little bit of, this is the flesh that I'm using. So I'm using the Reaper Triad fleshes. So this is golden shadow, this is golden skin, and this is golden highlight. And I'm using that with the Games Workshop Reichland Flesh Shade, which I use fairly sparingly as a wash because I don't want them to get too dark and too shadowy. I want them to have pale, nice Escher skin, I guess. They probably, use a lot of chemicals to get going that way. So that brush, isn't it fantastic? Look at that. You want to see what's really great? One of my best brushes, and I call this my best brush because it's just great for painting on coverage. Like I use it for doing a lot of bulk painting. Is this one, and it's literally missing half the brush. You can see here where like half the bristles have worn away. Yeah, that's a fantastic brush. But look at the head on that. This is the Winsor Newton Series 7s, man. They are durable, and despite the fact that I abuse my brushes and I'm terrible to my brushes and I replace my brushes probably more frequently than someone should have to replace their brushes, I love them. So what I'm going to do with these girls right now is I'm just going to show you what I did on the other ones, which is base coating their flesh. So I'm just taking, this is just pure golden shadow, and I'm going to start on her tummy, and I'm just going to paint. And if you guys want to give me some feedback as to how this looks, if it's complicating your life, so I want to make sure I get around her midriff here, get those hips, little tiny spot in here that I need to, and you don't have to, go right to the edges because again, I'm going to lay down, so just to protect sort of that black that I've already started working on, just to lay down some flesh, and then I'll put some wash over top later because I've got some that have been done. But yeah, it's a base coat, so fairly even as best as I can. I'm not worrying too much about the primer, the gray primer showing through, which you can see there's some still showing through on her tummy. I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to let that dry and I'll come back to it. They've got these gloves that are like half fingerless, so I have to do this part of her hand to show her half fingerless gloves. And then I guess maybe that's an archery thing. I remember when I took archery when I was a Cub Scout, we had these like leather pads on our forearms that we used, and when you would do it without it and the bow would whack against your forearm, you realized why you wanted that leather pad on your forearm. Okay, and then yeah, so here we go. So we got some flesh going on here around. And again, I don't have to go right in there because I'm going to lay down some wash to sort of help with the transition from skin to clothing, where those spots meet. The Drunken Roads always says 2 thin coats. I'm like 1 just coat. I don't know if it's thin or thick. It doesn't really matter. So her other arm. And these models are great. I really like these Escher Wild Runners. I kind of want to get another box and make juves out of them, but at the same time, I think going forward, I'm starting with 2 juves in my gang, but I think going forward, I won't buy new juves unless I get a new juve. Essentially, what I want to do is just promote the juves that I have, and then going forward, recruiting. If I recruit a new, it would be another Wild Runner because I've already got 4 of them. But I kind of would like, it'd be awesome if you could do like an entire gang of Wild Runners. So I feel a sneeze coming on because the construction outside tends to kick up a bit of dust in here, and I was dusting earlier because I'm trying to keep dust off of things. That's one of my new goals in life, is to keep dust off of things. The only thing I can see is that the color on your main cam is a bit washed out. It is, and I'm not really sure how to fix that. I could probably do something within the actual settings of the streaming software I'm using to fix the white balance. When I do anything on the camera, all those settings are just for recording mode, and the camera's not recording. The camera itself is just passing through to my PC. So I adjusted all those settings and played with all those settings, and it literally did nothing. So if so what it's passing through is what it's taking in. I know that there are cameras out there that can do that, but I am not currently looking at new cameras because I want to try and just make it work with what I've got. So what I am going to do is I'll probably go into my software settings, and I'm using OBS if you know anything about streaming. It's kind of the open source streaming software. There's another one called Streamlabs, but I found it was very gimmick heavy and very much geared towards like streaming, playing video games. So a lot of the functionality was built around that, and it seemed needlessly complicated for what I wanted to do. So I tried OBS and it worked, and it was easy to figure out. So I went with that. I mean, you know, why wouldn't you? So again, there we go. So there we go. There's her flesh. I don't have to do, whoops, under her hair here. I was looking over here to see if there's an ear poking out. I think there is. So let's see what happens. Is that an ear? Ah, it's an ear now. And I guess the back of her neck. And then again, the reason why I like doing the rest of the stuff black is that it'll be easy to fix if I make any errors here. So paint on her, and then just like magic like that, I'm gonna grab this one and I'm gonna wash her. So I purposely set these up this way. So I'll grab my Reichland Flesh Shade wash, and so how do you manage to keep up with and remember all the rules in Necromunda 17? I don't remember all the rules in Necromunda 17 actually. Every time I felt overwhelmed with all the rules. There are a lot of rules. I don't keep up at this point. I haven't. My friend and I, Nico, played a game last week to try and remember the rules, and that's sort of what we're gonna do. Is we're gonna play a bunch of games leading up to our campaign start, so that we go into the campaign as fairly experienced people with the rules. I played Old Necromunda, so a lot of it is just that. There's a lot of stuff within the campaign that can be daunting. I would say just use what you want. Don't worry about forgetting things. Don't worry about, getting everything right to start with. Obviously, once we sort of engage in our new campaign, I want to make sure that we're as right as possible, because it's, as much as it's a narrative campaign, you still play miniature war games to be competitive, right? So all right, so there's your fingers. So again, I'm just trying to put some wash in some areas, like around here, down by where her treasure trail would be, to get some shadow in there. Pick out those abs that she's rocking. She's clearly cross-fitting. And then here again with the half fingerless glove. And over the top here, again, I'm going to pull a lot of it off in certain places and try and get it to pool in others. That's sort of my principle when applying a wash, because you're trying to create some natural shadows and create some variance, because obviously skin is always is different constantly, right? So it's never perfect. Skin should never look perfect. It should always look as natural as possible. And that's one of my ancient secrets for painting skin was not worry about it looking like porcelain, like a porcelain doll, which I'm actually going to do when I do get around to finishing her. She's going to have very pale porcelain-like skin, and I'll actually probably do that with washes and layers, thin layers over top of the washes to give the skin some depth, and it'll be like an off-white, like almost like a porcelain. Probably might involve this Tusk Ivory Reaper HD paint. It may or may not. We'll figure it out when I get there. So yeah, so that's essentially washing a model, and then you can see like where the wash just doesn't want to stick or sit, which is here in her hip. So I'm actually just going to drop some wash there because I want those abs picked out and her treasure trail there. So, and I think that'll might be a little dark, but you know what? The Reaper paints One of the reasons why I love Reaper Master Series paints is they're fairly pigment heavy, but they've got really good coverage, and they take watering down really well. So when you do come to make thin layers building up over top, which I'm going to start doing right now, because I'm going to grab her, and I'm going to start highlighting the skin, because I base coated and washed her around 9:30 this morning. So she is ready to have the next level. So I'm actually going to take my golden skin, which is the next step up from the golden shadow, and I'm going to drop a dab of it beside. See how much lighter that is? You can see that. So you can see how much even lighter the highlight is. So with these triads, some of them, the transition between dark, mid, and high is really natural and normal. On here, it's quite stark. So there's quite a stark difference between this and this. And this is dark to the point where I want to start with mostly the shadow, and then I'm just going to start adding in little dabs of the skin as I go, and then that will dry. I'll let that set, and then I'll come back to it and hit it with the highlight, because the highlight will be just for the high points, just for like the high. So if you see how washed out I am, so like under my chin here where it's very light, right? So that would be like a highlight point. Same with my nose. And this whole half of my face is highlighted because of my lamp. So maybe I can. No, I need that lamp. So yeah, so what sort of campaign are you going to use? Okay, so let me see if I can catch up here. It's hard to paint and monitor chat, and this is my learning curve, so I actually enjoy this. So how do you manage? I ran a small weekender. Yeah, I figured that just... Yeah, so I've been rereading the rule books, and I've been reacquainting myself with the campaign rules and the arbitrator stuff. I'm not doing too much arbitrator stuff in our starting campaign. We're going to do a Dominion campaign, because I think that's the best place to start, because that's essentially when you're scrambling for territory. So I'm building a little narrative for a region of the Underhive that's called Schitt's Bleak, which is a takeoff on Schitt's Creek, which is, you can be up shit, right? It's a swear word. I can't say that on YouTube. It's okay. This is not for children, which means I can't monetize this, but whatever. One day, we'll wait till we get to 1,000 subscribers, which is the threshold. So again, right on the lip here, pick up a little bit of that, the most fantastic medium ever, and then I'm just going to start paint. I'm just going to start like this, leaving the shadow, and you can see sort of I've put it on there, I've left the shadow, and then figuring out where the highest spot on the model is and dropping a little bit extra on there. When painting skin, and this is something I developed when I was actually painting orc skin back in the early 2000s, when I was painting late 90s, early 2000s, and I was painting Brian Nelson orcs for my fantasy battle army. What I was doing with their skin was this kind of like feathering thing, where you leave it rough on purpose. You're not doing smooth lines. You're kind of, well, essentially brush strokes, right? You're stroking the brush across and under. We'll get that elbow. And then I'll just figure out where I need to add a little bit more, and I'll just add a little bit more just to bring it up. I want that bicep to kind of stand out, because she's quite butch. And then obviously the top of her shoulder there. And then we'll do that on the other side. This arm is funny. So this needle gun is a Forge World bit. And when I was base coating the arm this morning, and there's something on here. I'm going to see if I can pick that off. I don't know what that is, but we can always cover up scratches, right? Yeah, scratches are easy to cover up. But yeah, there's something on her arm that you can see. It's like a little black dot, and I can't get rid of it. So we'll figure something out. Like literally, I'm painting it, and it's like a black hole of. It's like a dimensional barrier there. Any paint I put on it just gets sucked into it. Yeah, see? Look at that. I'm painting over this black spot again and again and again. So there's a tiny little black hole in her shoulder, and I blame Forge World for that. So yeah, the way that this arm, when I was painting it, I was like, this arm has got a weird bend in it. And that's fine, because no one's going to notice that on the table, but it's one of those things you notice while you're painting. So I'm just going to get her forearm again. I'm just going back over, but I'm making sure to leave my shadows. And a little bit of that. And If it really grosses you out that I lick my paintbrush, I don't know what to say. If I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a dry paintbrush ain't one. So let's go here and do these fingers. Fingers. Get her knuckles. Make sure you get her knuckles to the back of her hand. You know, I want to make sure that I'm getting those ligaments on the back of the hand picked out. And those knuckles, because when you bend your knuckles, it lightens up, right? So you know that her knuckles are going to be just white knuckling it, man. White knuckling that needler. And I think I was talking about it on the test stream about this model, and sort of like my priorities for the campaign for this gang, not my priorities for the overall campaign, is to get her a telescopic sight. It's not in my basic ganger kit, so I can't get it to her right away. In fact, I don't know if there are any sights that are in any of the gang's basic ganger kit, because sights are really good. If you want your models to be hitting more, invest in some sights. I think it's the laser dots are the really good for pistols. And if your model's like a stationary sniper type, not that this is a sniper weapon, this only has an 18-inch range on the needle gun, but it's +2 to hit at short range, so it's +2 within 9 inches. If she has a telescopic sight and takes an aim action, I can add that +2 to her long range. So then now her threat range is 18 inches, but she can't move to do it. So you got to come to her. So she's really more defensive or like close support. I can see I got it over here. I got to keep it in the center there. So yeah, so she's definitely a support model in terms of she probably would move up behind my advancing models and lay down support. And most of my starting gang, other than my leader, the longest range I have is this 18-inch gun, and the bows are also 18 inches. But they're all silent, and they're all toxic. So if we're playing a scenario where I'm raiding you, you're going to have a much harder time spotting my guys, and toxic is fantastic because I'm just going to poison you. As I said, I don't care how many wounds you have. And then my leader has a bolt gun, so it's got a 24-inch range. So yeah, so we're just going to start with the Dominion campaign and leave it simple. We're all going to fight over territories, and we're all committing to 6 games apiece. So it'll be after 6 games, all the territories should technically be claimed, and then we're ready to start the second one. I wonder how you'd actually silence a bullet. Well, you can. You can get a... It's not called a silencer, it's called a gun shroud. And you can put a gun shroud on any gun, I believe. I believe you can put them on bolt guns. It's shooting rockets, yeah, exactly. The best description I remember from Rogue Trader times, when someone was describing what a bolt gun does, is that it shoots essentially like a gallon of milk. You know, like that's the size of a Space Marine bolter shell. Is like this, you know, something absolutely insane in size. Lighter fluid. So yeah, I don't know how you would gun shroud a bolter. Maybe you can't gun shroud a bolter. Maybe it only works on like las guns and auto guns, and no, but you can get it for shotguns, because I was going to convert a shotgun model with a gun shroud. I kind of like that idea, actually, especially for Escher, and especially because I think I made it clear yesterday on my stream that I believe shotguns are probably the best weapons in Necromunda, because not the best weapon, but they're so versatile and so useful, and you'll always get yourself into a firefight situation where you wish you had a shotgun. The old hex screw tops paints were the size of bolt rounds, I guess. I mean, that's a pretty big bullet, you know. So anyway, so that's the base of the, and that was just using just the shadow. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my skin base here, and I'm going to make a little mix over here with it. So my skin base, and then I'm going to add some here so that it gets to the right consistency where I want it. And again, just the blend and it's going to be less this time. So closer to, again, to the top points, a little bit less, so that it helps to really provide you with some definition. Back of her arm here, her little elbow. And do you guys know what the flap of skin that hangs off the elbow is called? One fake internet point in the chat. To anyone who can tell me what that's called without Googling it. And we're just on the honor system here. So, and it's not called mirrors, Nico. So, there we go. Tips of your fingers are always going to be a little bit lighter. Again, you want to bring those out, right? And then knuckles, white knuckles, and we'll leave those shadows there. And then come over to this hand here, which is a little bit funky, and we're just going to white knuckle again, because you just want to be able to see the top of the hand, and then you want to see where the hand basically travels into the fingies, the fingers. So hit that finger under there, and then I'm just gonna like slap some paint down there or whatever, and we'll just call those knuckles. And then we'll do the top of her arm here and the elbow. I'm gonna look in the chat. No one's gotten it yet. Okay. All right, and then that black hole of black dot on there, which I'll figure out. And then just down here. So since I see that Pikachu, since I see that Nico's in the chat, I'm going to tell Nico that he needs to send me pictures of his miniatures, or I'm just going to take pictures off the Discord and put them on my website, because your models are looking really good these days, man. Your new weathering techniques and stuff that you've developed are on point, as the kids say. I imagine, as the kids say. Maybe they don't. So yeah. Not worth one fake internet point. It's called a weenus. It's a weenus. I believe that's the scientific term for it. Don't look it up. Just take my word for it, or check Wikipedia sometime tomorrow, after I've updated it. So doing her face, and I realized I didn't actually even go over her face with just the shadow yet, because I was talking to you guys and you guys distracted me. How do you find painting the newer plastics over the old Escher models? Or, well, any old metal models? I think I discussed this on a stream a couple of days ago, but these Escher models are the first plastic modern models for Games Workshop that I have painted in, what is it, September? 9 months, maybe even longer. Up until for the last while, I've been painting nothing but like 30-year-old metal models, like this guy. So painting this model compared to painting this model is vastly, vastly different in terms of not necessarily how you paint it, but just what you're doing to get it painted. There's so much more surface, and there's less detail, and it's more large blocks of color, and painting what is there instead of worrying about what should be there. And I'm doing these orcs in a much more unnatural style than I do normal orcs. If you look at my or these particular space orcs, I should say, but if you look at my fantasy orcs, I tend to paint my old painting style for orcs really developed in 6th and 7th edition. So it has a very, very more realistic, grittier look to it. And I never was one for like the bright colors of 4th and 5th edition fantasy, even though that was sort of what I came up in. I always painted things more naturally, and maybe that was just because it was easier, and so it wasn't really a conscious choice. It was just the way that my style developed, because I looked for shortcuts and ways to just get things done. Let's get some of this slightly lighter stuff, because her faces are always be careful, because you can mess up a face pretty easily. So if I stop talking, it's because I'm concentrating on trying to get her face right. That looks pretty good. I don't know how that comes through. Yeah, it does look quite washed out, but I'm just gonna grab some of this pure skin now and get her nose and her upper lip. And I'm not gonna worry about the lips right now because I'll go back over and actually give her lipstick at some point. And by that I mean I'll paint her bottom lip. And then so her eyebrow here and her eye, the top of her eyelid. I think that was maybe that was a turning point in miniatures, where you used to have eyebrows, and all of a sudden you started having eyelids. Typical Tyler. I primed more dwarfs. Yay! I like the idea. I like hearing priming dwarfs. I'm hoping that the dwarfs that you primed are 30-year-old lead dwarfs. That's what I'm hoping that you're saying that you primed. Because if you're going to be painting any dwarfs right now, those are the dwarfs I'd be painting. We have a chronicle to forge. We got to forge that narrative, right? And I've got orcs. The boys from Dungtop Hill are looking for a scrap. So they really want to make sure I get that nose. And really want to make sure I get the very tip top of her eyelid here, because it will help define her face. So how does that look on camera? I'm going to call that good. And again, I still have one more layer of highlight to do, which is the actual golden highlight, which is very light. And that I will not even do with, I'll do with, I'll pull out a 000, and the places I'll be hitting on it will just be like spots. So there's her. So I'm going to do the same on Enkidu here and hers. So I'm going to make a little bit more of this golden skin. Sorry, I'm going to go straight with the golden shadow over the wash again. See, it's weird when you're painting 6 models at all various different stages at once. For your benefit, so you should all be thanking me. Imagine me painting a plastic dwarf, right? Right? Imagine. What if they were called Caradrons? Would you paint a plastic dwarf then? What if they were called Fire Slayers? Would you paint a plastic dwarf then? So just getting under here, getting under these hips. These hips don't lie. So yeah, so I guess I'll talk about channel growth. Not much to talk about right now, because there's not a lot of people watching. But the cool thing is that I've got about 150 subscribers. I think I was just shy of 150 when I launched the stream today. And most of those came within the last 24 hours, which is really awesome. And I'm going to give a big shout out to Ash Barker over at Guerrilla Miniature Games for saying something, just mentioning it on Facebook, and all of a sudden I get like 100 new subs. And Michael Logan at Logan Miniature Mart, who also gave me a shout out on his channel, and I think that certainly netted me a few more subs. So I think that's awesome. Copplestone and Goodwin are to me the pinnacle of old school sculpting. Yeah, I can't really argue with those two names. To me, the god of miniature designing, of miniature sculpting, is Jess Goodwin. I think he is far and away the best miniature sculptor. He's the best at what he does so he's the best at basically the games. I mean, he is, I think I'd say he and the Perrys definitely established what we would call the Games Workshop, the Citadel aesthetic for miniatures, right? And most other companies have tended to follow that. Things have kind of diverged in recent times with a lot of 3D sculpting. So you're using, I think a lot of 3D sculpts that I see use like pre-built maquettes, and so they all kind of have this like samey proportions to them. Yeah, exactly. Perry, I would say that the Perry twins and Jess Goodwin, but then you have to look at Allie and Trish Morrison. Like, there's not a monster. Sorry, I should say, there are very, very few monsters in the history of Citadel that Trish Carden now, formerly Trish Morrison, didn't sculpt. I'm actually, I actually asked her on her Facebook if she had sculpted the eagle for. I'll show you the eagle. So this is Gwaihir. So this is the Lord of the Rings Gwaihir eagle, and so he shares a lot of the design similarities with the old High Elf Great Eagles. And I used Gwaihir because he's huge. He's much bigger than those old Great Eagles to make this elven hero on a Boyd. And I wondered if Trish had sculpted this or if this was sculpted by Brian Nelson, because I know that the Lord of the Rings models, the bulk of those Lord of the Rings models, were the Perry twins with Brian Nelson. So those three were like the Lord of the Rings sculptors. And I didn't know if maybe there was things in it that made me think that maybe it wasn't Trish, and maybe this was Brian Nelson copying her style. So I asked her on her Facebook, and she responded back and said, "Yeah, I did sculpt that." So that's awesome. And yeah, gorgeous. Anyways, that's another project for another time. That's Old Hammer. We're not doing Old Hammer. We're doing Necromunda, which I guess could kind of be Old Hammer, but it's not really Old Hammer. At least not this Necromunda is not Old Hammer. So where were we at with her? See, you guys distracted me, and now I have no idea what I'm doing. I guess I got to do her face. Yeah, you know what? I don't like her tummy's a little too. You know what? Well, that's fine. So here we go, just with some solid, straight up golden shadow, and again, I'm just controlling how much paint I'm putting on. Very subtle. I just want to get a few bits here and there, like her nose, get those lips. And again, the lips I'll be going back over, usually right before I do the eyes. I'll do the lips and get the cheeks. So again, we're not on the faces with the golden shadow. You want the face to stand out, so I'm not leaving too much of the Reikland flesh shade showing. I'm really going over most of it, like her brow there and stuff. You want that to stand out, so I'm going to put some paint there. How's that? There we go. And now I'm going to grab some of the lighter mix and just hit her nose, hit the bottom lip, hit her chin like that. Cheekbone and brow. Over here, just get her brow. Get that nose again. Because you'll see what happens is that when the paint sort of starts to dry and evaporate, you see sort of the true transition from one color to another, and you end up going back over it just to sort of, like, I want to make sure that her chin stands out. And the upper lip up here, and I'm going to make that cheek a little bit more pronounced, and like that. And then I'm just going to take that, and I'm going to hit the rest of her. So back of her neck, pretty simple. Shoulders, so again, less is more. So, you can always go back and add more paint, but it's a lot harder to reproduce something that you've now covered up. So always err on the side of caution and be conservative when dropping your paint on. Get her forearms here. Get the back of her arm here. I guess that's her, what is that? The traps? The traps? I don't know. What are those called? No, the traps are here, right? This is tricep, bicep, tricep. Yeah, whatever. So neon hammer rather than old hammer for Necromunda. All downhill from Feathers. You guys are hilarious. What do we got? Is that a converted war dancer? It is a war dancer, and it's actually a rarer one. This may be a little unknown bit of trivia, but oftentimes, and I noticed this going through old catalogs and looking at the availability of old models and seeing where they drop off in the progression of catalogs, and Stuff of Legends website is the best resource on the internet for old Citadel catalogs. So I'll give you an example of what I'm about to talk about. So when the Kev Adams Orc Boys with crossbows, and this was the Orc Boys with the plastic crossbows, when those were first released, there were 9 models released. There were 9 of them. So in the initial White Dwarf, whatever White Dwarf they were in, I think like 96 or 97, there were 9 of them. And in the back pages, there were 9 of them. In the catalog from that year, there were 9 of them. The catalog from the following year, there were only 8. And then going forward from that point, there were only 8 available. So at some point, one of them was dropped from production. You couldn't get it anymore. And whether that was because of the molds or because, again, you're also dealing... It's entirely possible that the stuff was available in the UK, but not available in North America, because when North America opened their own foundry, they sent over all the masters and they made their own molds and they had their own masters in the US. So there were actually very subtle differences between models sculpted in the Baltimore foundry, or not sculpted, it was cast in the Baltimore foundry, than there were in the UK foundry. And I think, wasn't there a foundry in Germany at one point? I feel like someone told me that. I don't know. But anyways, regardless, so the War Dancer that I used here is a similar type of model. When they first released the War Dancers in 86 or 87, there were a ton of sculpts. And then slowly over time, there became less and less War Dancer sculpts available. He was one of the first to go. And there are models that look a lot like him, and you'll see like, oh no, here he is, and you look and you go, no, it's not the same model. So just to pull it back to talking about Jess Goodwin 80s Wood Elves, because they are my favorite elves by far. I don't think they've ever done elves as cool as the ones that Jess Goodwin did in the mid to late 80s. So he's basically wearing a chainmail one piece with some armor plates on it, and there's a version of him that looks kind of similar, but the mask is different, or it doesn't have a mask at all. So, and they would do that a lot back then. He would sculpt a different head, same model, but change some of the details and put a different head on him. So this one's actually, from what I remember when I bought him, because I bought this one specifically to put on this eagle, because this is the one I wanted, because I really like that face mask. And he was going to have a sword, but then the sword looked kind of gimpy. So I said, well, he's going to have a shield, or he'll have a spear and a shield. And the spear, if you know where that spear's from, you get 1 million fake internet points. But I'll just tell you right now, it's from a old 3rd edition metal high elf spearman, which I gave a sword to because he was going in a unit with a bunch of guys with sword and shield. So, and I didn't want to have spears sticking out in random places for an entire unit. Wow, you're so good at painting. Can you teach Tyler, his wife? I can teach Tyler. All Tyler has to do is tune in every day, Monday to Friday, from noon till whenever, and I will teach Tyler how to paint. But if Tyler wants to come over anytime and bring me presents, I'll sit him down and I'll teach him how to paint. Okay, so where are we at here? I don't know. Her. I guess we're back to her, because I guess I'm letting this... Am I happy with that? Whoop. Not really. Let's get a little bit more of our golden skin out here. And go to town on her a bit more. Okay. So I'm just going to blend between the shadow and the skin here to give myself an intermediate color. And I think where I'm not happy is her abs here. I want those abs to stick out. So around the top of the belly button there. I'm just going to hit the top of it. Again, I want to create some shadows, accentuate some shadows, That's what highlighting is all about. And I'm going to get the top of her hip here so that that sort of sticks out. And probably under here, her rib cage. Get that to stand out. And then I'm just going to go across across the hip here so that it comes back a bit more. At the back here, I'm just going to go in with some shadow and try and bring this up, but I don't want to bring it up too much, so I added some shadow into my blend. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's get her weenus here. So her elbow. And her tricep. And I'm just hitting the tops of it to sort of create some artificial lighting, because that's really what you're doing with highlighting, is you're scaling down your lighting. You want your reflections to look like, you want a 32 millimeter model to look like a 6-foot Amazonian warrior lady. And we all have an eye. I guess it's that uncanny valley thing. It's why computer graphics don't look right to us, right? Because we all have an eye for what something should look like naturally, right? In terms of how light reflects off it, and I'm just going to get underneath here. Not that anyone's too concerned about that. And we'll get the front of her bicep here, and you can see I've got a bit of a mold line here, which well, oh well, so sad. Again, I think this is a resin arm as well, so I blame Forge World. That's fine. We'll get the front of the tip of her. I'm going to add a little bit of light to that. Lighten that up a bit so that the front of her bicep really sort of stands out and distracts from the mold line, because your eyes will be drawn to the lightest part, right? And then we've got our collarbone here. Like, these models are, like, for where we're at with plastic technology, the fact that I'm painting collarbones on these miniatures, and if I had a human from back in the day handy, I could show them to you, but I don't really have a human I have an elf. Here's another elf, another one of Jess Goodwin's tiles. So, like, there's no collarbone on this model. He's just got a giant head and giant hands and giant floppy feet. And those are the proportions of models in the 80s. And we liked it that way. I think I mentioned yesterday the issue with Games Workshop elves of that era and their giant floppy feet. Tyler is unteachable. Tyler is a good painter. He just doesn't do it. Everyone's a good painter. You just don't do it. The most prolific painter I know is probably between my buddy Nico, who's here in the chat, and Ash Barker, who's very prolific. And I think we've all figured out in our twilight years how to just get it done, right? Like, I think that's one of the big things that you're going to find getting into miniature painting, if you're into miniature painting, or if you're trying to figure out, like, you start to figure out the most efficient ways, the quickest ways to achieve your effect, right? And not really concern yourself too much with the minutia. I think I talk about, like, I used to be a real minutia painter. And I think some people may still accuse me of being a minutia painter, especially if they're watching me, go 4 layers deep on this girl's eyebrows. Like, that's a minutia painter. All right, I'm getting her chin, I'm getting her upper lip here. And the best thing is that I can't even see her upper lip as I'm painting it. I'm just guessing that that's where it is, and that's where my Julia Child painting approach. It is kind of a Julia Child painting approach. It's just like, throw everything in the pot and get dinner made. Like, it's not hard, people. It's not rocket scientists. It's not rocket scientists. You're not cooking rocket scientists, are you? Anyways, where are we at here? Boom. Let's go back to her and add some golden skin here to her. And I don't mind taking this kind of time on these models because, uh, my starting gang is like 10 models. And so painting my starting Escher gang, it was kind of the same way. I'll show you my gang queen, who's essentially done and is just waiting for the rest of her gang to show up. So this is my gang queen, and her name is Briar, and she is the Mistress of Thorns. And yeah, so she's just waiting for me to finish painting the rest of my gang, which is mostly new models because the new models are hot. I really like them, and I like painting new stuff. It's like I could just go with my old Escher gang, but I'm not going to. Oh, Dr. Disrespect is live. Sorry, I gotta go. Oh, I know, I get it, man. That's fine. Look, man, I was watching Doc the other day, and he's sort of definitely built a persona, and I think I was talking about this in our Discord, talking about like transcending cringe and getting somewhere exemplary, right? Like, I think Dr. Disrespect could be really cringy. And I think people watching him, like, when I first started watching him, I was like, oh, this guy, what do people see in this? Like, he's cringy, and he's talking about himself and how he's 6'8", and, like, and then you realize, after I watched it for a bit, I said, oh, he's doing shtick. Like, it's a character. It's absolutely a character. And another one who's sort of bring it into something closer to, hope this is okay, closer to our genre is the Bard. And, like, the Bard is the Bard, and if you've ever watched Bardic Broadcasting, give him a shout out here. Not that he needs it from me, and not that my shout out is really all that meaningful, I guess, at this point. But to, like, his video, his unboxing video, or his Hero Quest video, which isn't really an unboxing video, is one of the best. It's one of the best. It's very well known, and it's become a meme in itself, right? The best thing about blah, 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 is like that's so. And his character, like, growing up, I knew guys like the Bard. I played role-playing games and miniature games with guys like the Bard. So everyone has a Bard in their life that they can identify with. And in today's climate, I think a lot of people would look at that and go, oh, it's so cringy, right? Because it's so nerdy, but like, not just nerdy, just like, because obviously nerd is a pejorative that now means something quite different. You need a name for my fans. You're chroniclers, man. You're all chroniclers of your own chronicles, your own stories. Your chronicle is your life story. To sort of get onto the philosophy of what the Eternal Chronicles is to be. And I have a future topic of discussion for the stream. Sorry, I think I'm painting off camera now. I'm so distracted. For the stream, where I'm going to sort of talk about the philosophy that I have behind the idea of the Eternal Chronicles, and what it is to me, and what I would like it to be, and what it could be to each of you. Because, like I said, you are all chroniclers. You're all chroniclers of your own stories, and whether those stories are factual or whether those stories are fictional, it doesn't really matter. They're your stories, right? And they're what's important to you. And maybe that's a little too lofty a concept for playing with toy soldiers, but I've been playing with toy soldiers since my early teens, like really early teens, like since actually I was probably since I was like 12. So when I was a tween, even, I've been playing with toy soldiers. So to say that they're not a significant aspect of my life and not a significant part of my chronicle, my story of my life, like, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this if that wasn't the case. If this wasn't something that I was, beyond passionate for, zealous for, and the fact that so many of my, not biggest moments in life, but definitely my biggest leisure moments in life are related to what I'm doing right now, which is painting miniatures and playing with miniatures. And that's essentially, it's an excuse for me to continue to wallow in my man childhoodedness, right? is I can put some deep, wise, aged philosophy on my silly little hobby of painting toy soldiers and making them go pew 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 pew. Right. So that's what the Eternal Chronicles is. It's me wallowing as a man child. And you're all welcome to come along. So yeah. All right. So where are we at? Boom, ba boom, ba boom. It is almost 10 after, but I'm still painting. So I'm just gonna keep painting. And if you guys are enjoying watching me paint, enjoying me chatting, then stick around because I'm gonna keep going for a little while longer. It sounds. I was talking to one of the construction guys out there yesterday, and he was telling me that most of the loud work is now done, and he was showing me what they're doing on the wall. And I was telling him how jackhammers now haunt my dreams, or haunt my nightmares, whatever you want to call them. One man's nightmares, another man's dreams. So, yeah, I kind of did something funny on her stomach there. I think it's a little bit too much paint, actually. So, this is one of those examples of it's easier to less is more, because now going back and fixing that is going to be a bit of a pain in the butt. I'm just going to let that set. Essentially, I just don't like the way her abs look, and what I'll do is once that's dried, I will throw some Reikland Flesh Shade back on her and revisit. But let's look at the flesh on the two models that I did finish, or still have to do the actual, like, the spot highlighting with the highlight, which is Enkidu here, who is the Tigronian or Tigranian alchemist, which is the sect of Escher that I made up for my own backstory. And then I guess she could also technically be part, maybe she's like an apprentice of the Tigronian alchemists. The Tigronian alchemists are not actually alchemists, they're just Escher who will only engage the enemy with toxins, like they want to use poisons. And I guess maybe that's all Escher, but these are like she has like a martial style that she has been taught to her, that's been developed for centuries by Escher warriors going back, and they and it's all about how to best utilize toxins. So her starting kit is a stiletto blade, which is toxic, or a stiletto sword, which is toxic, and then parry is good, and a needle pistol, which is also toxic, and then I gave her a chem synth, so she will be able to rock and roll with the best of them out there. Chem synths are very useful. It allows you to reroll ones when rolling to wound with the toxin weapon, I think. And then the Escher specialty is all the alchemistry that they can do. Alchemicky. I know alchemicky. I think I went to high school with alchemicky. Alchemicky. So, yeah. So, I guess what I will show you is black now. So, you can see what I've done here. And I think I talked about this the other day on the stream. And I'm going to pull out this girl here for that, because I have not highlighted this black yet. But what I did here was, and it's still not, like, there's one more level to go. But I go back and I finish the flesh first, and then go back and finish the black, because it's just the way I paint. I'll block things out, get them to a certain point, and then do another area on the model, and then come back to it. So I haven't done the gray here. All that's happened is that over the base primer, which is Mechanica Standard Gray, which is the primer I tend to use most of the time. So over this, all I did was wash it with a contrast, the Black Templar Black contrast, over that gray, so it's giving me this nice dark gray, and there's already a little bit of shadowing built in there from the contrast. But I'm actually going to go over that, and you can see what I've done. Here's another example. So I've gone over that with... Where are you, paint? Boom. Nope, not that one. Boom. This. This is another Reaper paint. This is just an MSP, not an HD, just a regular Master Series paint core color. And this is Ashen, and I'm pretty sure that says blue underneath that tear there. So, and I will show you, I'm just going to move my palette around to where I was painting it, because these wet palettes, they're quite versatile. So you can see here, That's where I was painting the ashen blue. And this here is actually Black Templar contrast. Because what I've been doing is, again, I like to blend. So, and I can use contrast to blend. I don't know if that's what they were intended for. So I'm going to drop some ashen blue here. And then I'm going to grab this is contrast Citadel Black Templar. Like Black Templar, I like contrast paints, I should say. I don't have really an opinion on Black Templars. They're a pretty cool Space Marine chapter. And so I'm just going to drop some Black Templar down here, and I will be using that because what that will do is not only will it blend down, sorry about the brush on my mouth, not only will it blend down and darken the ashen blue, but it will thin it too. So it's a 2-for-1, right? So I'm taking this contrast, and because the contrast paints are nice and really nice pigment heavy washes essentially, what you get by doing this is a fantastic blended color that you can use for highlighting. I'll add a little bit more. There we go. That's about where I want it. And then I'll show you here. I wipe most of it off because this is, at this point, I'm almost dry brushing, but not quite. So I did her knee, so, and you can see, and then I'm just going to start moving this around over the surface areas, essentially over brushing. If I hit that red, that's fine. That red has not been washed yet, so I can always go back and add more red. So now, like here where her leg comes down, and you can see there's a little bit of like cloth texture here, and you want that knee to sort of stand out. So I'm actually going to add a tiny bit more Black Templar here, and just go around the kneecap, right, providing some natural light. And then up here where you can see there's 1 fold, 2 fold, and a few more folds, and then just sort of carry that down onto each other. Hopefully you can see that. I'll grab a little bit more of just the ashen here, and I'm just going to move my palette over so I make sure that I'm painting where I'm supposed to be painting so you guys can see. Again, I'm just going to hit there, and then down the side of her leg. And boom, there's the top of her leg done. Pretty simple stuff. You know, I'm going to leave this under here, but I will add a small highlight right here, which will help to demonstrate the separation between her upper leg and her lower leg here, and then down here. And then these buckles, so there's little straps coming out of these buckles, which will probably end up being gold or silver. They're easy enough to just literally, you just pass the brush over them and the paint will adhere where it wants to adhere. And generally it'll adhere on the highest point, depending, and then we can go in between. So it looks like she's got like a little ankle bracelet here. So I want to get her heel. So back here. And again, especially when highlighting black, the whole principle of less is more is really important when highlighting black, because black can start looking like gray really quickly. And this isn't even, this would technically, I guess, be step 3, because step 1 would be, no, step 1 would be primer. Step 2 is the Black Templar contrast. And then step 3 is this ashen Black Templar blend for picking out some things you can see on there on the foot. Because what you want to make it look like is that there is some reflectivity to what she's wearing on her legs here. So we'll go down, we'll get that heel again, and again, it's just when grabbing something like that, you can almost be an impressionist and just fill it in and let the viewer make from it what they will. So we've got a few more folds here on her on the back of her leg here, where the material has folded. And then now getting her calf. So again, I'm going to take some more of that black, and I'm going to mix in a little bit more of that black so that I'm darkening it up again, because I'm going to be applying it over quite a large area on her calf. and I want it to go on very lightly and very subtly, and you won't even see it going on. That's how subtle this is. I'm just brushing, 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 and always brushing towards wherever my highest highlight's going to be. So I know that down at the bottom of the calf is where I'm going to have the most amount of pigment, so I'm brushing in that direction. I don't know, does that make a difference? And then you can see I added a tiny little bit of moisture there, and I'm able to control that moisture because it's coming out of my mouth, and I'm a disgusting human being. Pretty sure the GW police will knock your door. Will knock on your door. Knock your GW police. Did I say something that I don't know? I'll get that joke probably when I go back and if I go back and rewatch the stream, because I may have said something that would precipitate that. Otherwise, Torben, you have to explain yourself. Why would the GW police be knocking down my door? Not that I don't get the joke, I just don't think I'm aware of what the joke is. So, do I want her? Oh, is this about too thin? No, it doesn't matter. For mixing contrast with Reaper paint. Oh, I get it now. Dude, all my paints are just like, I think on my table in front of me, I have 4 different brands. I have Citadel, I have Army Painter, I have Reaper, and I have Vallejo. So that's 4. And then I also have some secret weapon washes in front of me. That's 5. And I have this AK paint matte medium, which is kind of garbage. It's very goopy. It's matte medium, but it's super thick. So I guess it's for adding pigment to and not necessarily using as a medium to thin paints. But I don't know. I don't know why it's here. I think I use it a few times. So yeah, so I've got 5 different brands of paint in front of me, and I'm looking to see if there's a 6th. Because it's entirely possible. I mean, like the Vallejos that I have game color, model color, probably a few Panzer Aces that would be over there and stuff. And then Army Painter's just all Army Painter. And Reaper, you have the Reaper Master Series, the Core. Then you also have the HD, which are the high density paints. I think one of mine is actually from the Heavy Gear range of Reaper paints, because Reaper did a range of paints for the Heavy Gear miniature game. So I think I have a few of those. So this should be really dark because I've added quite a bit of the Black Templar contrast and the to the Ashen Gray, because I want to get the front of her leg here, her shin, and I just kind of want to hit that with a line. You see that little line that I've got there? So again, that'll help pick it out. I want to make sure that I'm painting on screen. I had to downscale. I was up to 8 brands at one point. I don't see the point of brand loyalty. I see the point of quality loyalty. If I can get a color in a paint, like if I can get a color in a Reaper, I will, because I okay, so well, that's fine. We'll have to fix that at some point. Sorry, my computer just blanged at me about something, but that's not really important right now. And the good thing is that no one's called me because I turned my phone off, so it shouldn't be shorting out my webcam today. See, we're making progress every day here, folks. All right, so let's go and paint the black over here. So essentially I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to go around the, so make sure I get a good amount of paint. I think that was Adam West Batman. I think Adam West Batman just fell down. He was blue tacked to the top of my hobby hutch behind me. I thought it'd be funny. I had him and Dread wrestling for a while. The Adam West Batman is actually like an original toy from the 1960s Batman series that I think belonged to my Aunt Heather at some point, and she's the one who introduced me to Batman. Like the first Batman that I was aware of was the Adam West Batman, and that was before I could read, so I couldn't read comic books, and I was exposed to that. That was the Batman that I knew, and then I met Batman on Super Friends. Actually, maybe Super Friends was first. Doesn't matter. They're both ridiculous versions of Batman. And then a few years later, the cool kid in my neighborhood, who also introduced me to Judge Dredd, showed me Frank Miller's The Dark Knight, and I was like, "What kind of Batman is this?" Because at that point, I guess I would probably have been, I want to say I would have been 11 or 12 years old when Frank Miller's Dark Knight was released. The comic book, the original one, when it was in the when it was well, not when it was released as the collective, but when it was the individual issues were released, and he had those, and he was the kind of kid who wouldn't let you touch his comic books. He would hold them, and you could look over his shoulder as he was holding them, because you couldn't touch his comic books. And I kind of became that kid. Well, I should paint on camera, eh? I kind of became that kid in the late 80s when I was in middle school, so I was like grade 7, grade 8. I was collecting, I got into collecting comic books, and I was collecting Batman and Spider-Man and anything else that I could afford. X-Men. I loved New Mutants, like at that time. I had a huge crush on Magic from the New Mutants. I just thought like she was the coolest character. Just this like girl who had been to hell and was now like had like her own demon army. Like that's how badass she was. She went to hell and came out with an army of demons, and you know, like with all this power and stuff. And so I'm kind of excited to see the new movie that they've made. I don't know where we're gonna get to see that. Is that going to be on Disney Plus? Because that would be kind of freaky. If we got to see the New Mutants on Disney Plus, or if it's probably like they're like Super Plus Plus service. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Is it trouble deciding what shade of brown to use? Yeah, it's funny because I do own a large amount of paint. So there's probably about 100 paint pots in front of me. And then in my hobby hutch, there's probably another like 200. One day I'll do like a tour of my studio setup here. And I probably use a third of them at most. Like my color palette tends to be what's in front of me that's on here. And if I need a specific, like if I'm doing something very specific, they'll change out. But like my core colors, like I tend to paint leather the same way, which is I use Army Painter Leather Brown, and then I blend it with some black so that it darkens, and then I lighten it back up to leather brown all the way up to like a bone. Like I'll use like a skeleton bone to highlight, to blend up the leather brown, so you get this nice worn leather look. And so I know that like that's the way I'll do that, and that's the way I do it on. If I'm doing a particular type of leather, that's my formula for it, right? And I guess we all have those. And then I just seem to collect paints because I'm like, oh, that's a cool color. Maybe I'll try that on something, or I want to try to get this sort of effect. Or I need something to highlight black with, so you end up buying like 4 different of these blue grays to figure out which one is the best to highlight black with, and then you're stuck with all of them, right? So Wolf Gray, which is really blue, which is the Army Painter, and then this is, what is this? This is a Vallejo model color. This is Luftwaffe Uniform Gray. So this was probably, in all disclosure, this was probably bought to paint World War II Germans for bolt action. And then I've got Snow Shadow, which is a little bit too white and too light. And then I've got this ashen blue, which is my favorite go-to for highlighting black. And I'll use that until I run out and find something else that's better, or not. Who knows, right? How are you finding the AP paints? I've started using them myself because I liked their finish and tones, but I find them difficult to get working right. Yeah, I have mixed feelings on Army Painter stuff. It's not as bad as Vallejo Game Color. Vallejo Game Color is garbage paint. Not that I don't own a bunch of Vallejo Game Color, and not that some of my like key things are not dependent on Vallejo Game Color. It just doesn't cover well. It's got a weird thickness to it that if you thin it at all, it becomes goopy and not quite so transparent. So I use this for most of my bases. This is Vallejo Game Color Terra, or Earth. I call it Terra, but I realize that Terra is just Spanish for Earth. So it's Vallejo Earth. I have this one that I use occasionally for highlighting red with, but I've actually find that the current red, the red that I'm using on these, I'm better off going with not pale saffron. with this. So this is a mustard yellow, a Reaper HD mustard yellow, which I will blend with this rust red, with a secret weapon black, red black wash, and then blend that up to the mustard, or almost to the mustard, so it's kind of an orangey red. So you can see it there, and again, there's probably another level of highlights to do on her armor there. Let's see if I can pull out one where you can see it a little bit better. No, not you. Let's go with you. I think I did a better job on you anyways with that. So yeah, you can see like the little segmented plates down her back, and the way that I've highlighted it. That's basically going, and I did that 2 days ago because I didn't paint on stream yesterday. So yes, we've got this red and this mustard yellow. Your disk space is running low. Oh man, that's funny. So it's telling me my disk space is running low because I've got it backing up my stream recording, and it's MP4, so it's like this huge, ridiculous file. And I've got like 4 days of files in there now that I've got to just dump out. So, you know, there's always all these little things, maintenance on how to stream. So I think that's maybe where I'm going to leave it today. I'm going to switch up here, and I'm going to talk for a little bit more, but I think I'm going to give the painting a break for now. It used to be that I could sit and paint for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and just like literally like shoulders down, head down, staring at the table. Now I find I can get, well, this has basically been like an hour and a half, but I was actually painting a little bit before the stream as well. So I've probably been stooped over painting for about 2 hours now, and this is the time where I feel like I need to just take a stretch. I need to get up and like stretch myself. I need to give my eyes a rest, so I'll probably go for a walk around the block or something. And that's just an old man problem. You know, like it used to be back in my 20s, I could sit at my desk and regularly did like 24 hours straight, no sleep, just me, coffee, and other stimulants that I would use and just paint like an entire squad of 10 Space Marines in a 24-hour period and get that done and just work and paint. All of which, well, not all, because I could pour one out for my homies of my lost miniatures that I've painted, but I have a lot of stuff documented and photographed, and that you can see that on the eternalchronicles.ca. I'll be working hopefully this week, getting a photography set up, maybe on the weekend. It's usually the weekends are probably the best because I got to take these lights down because I'll use them in the for the. Sorry, I just needed some lighter fluid there. For doing some photography and taking some pictures of stuff that I painted more recently, but I also have like a stack of negatives, like a thick wad of negatives from back in the days when you shot on film, back in the 90s, of a whole lot of photos. And some of those photos are already up on my website, but I have so many more of models that I painted back then that need to go into the galleries there. So those will be hopefully updated later this week, sometime next week. I want to do the photography this weekend maybe, and then after Monday's stream, I'll work on getting those galleries updated so people can take a look at that. This is my 5th stream. I'm glad that I hope people liked it. I think yesterday was an awesome stream, just talking about Necromunda. I want to do more streams like that where it's not necessarily just me painting, but maybe I'm shooting from the hip. Pow! A lot more at you guys, just talking about life, the universe, and everything. I have books that I just want to go through with people and express my opinions on things, because I think if this stream or podcast or whatever you want to call it, if this live stream had another title, it'd be Opinions of a Very Opinionated Man. I've been told I am. And I just go through and looking forward to hear about your mixed feelings on Army Painter. Sorry, I didn't get to. So my mixed feelings are. I will get to it right now, Torben. I'm sorry. I like some Army Painter stuff. I don't like other Army Painter stuff. I love their shades, although I think I discussed this in an earlier stream. If you go back and look, they let's go back over top here. They changed the formulation on these to make them a little bit more glossy. The consistency of the range, yeah, that's essentially what the issue is that And I think that they've had maybe some production issues with consistency recently. Their colors tend to change. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, you know what? Here's an example. I have to find the other one though. So just give me 2 seconds while I look into my hobby hutch here and see if I can find the newer one that I bought. Oh, nope. Oh, well, maybe that might work too. That might work as an example. Well, there's that rust I was looking for. Anyways, oh, perfect. Look at this. Boom. So, these are 2 Goblin Greens. This one, was purchased 5 years ago, 6 years ago maybe. This one was purchased this year at some point. These are not the same green. These are not even close to being the same green. This one over here is far closer to the old GW Goblin Green than this one. I don't know. We'll see when I start using this one, because this one's still got some juice in it, but I wanted to replace it. And when I went to replace it and got it home, I looked at it and went, what? Those are not the same color. Updating their line 2 or 3 years ago. Well, the problem with updating your line, which GW is wont to do and has done repeatedly in the past, the issue with that is that for people who are relying on color matching to get those old colors, there goes my circle. To get those old colors, what are we gonna do? I know that some people have gone all the way to the source, which is Cote d'Arms, who used to make the old Citadel paint colors for GW before GW decided to bring all that in-house or go to some other. Because I doubt GW has factories where they're making their own paint. They're sourcing their paint from somewhere, so who knows where. I don't know what company, but Cote d'Arms used to do it, and the Cote d'Arms had the old, so this style pot. So this is so I do have 6 different brands of paint on here because I have a few of these Formula P3s. This is Radiant Platinum. I just think it's a fantastic, like, off silver. It's a great platinum color, and I use it for highlighting orc weapons because the edge of an orc weapon should never be like a nice pure silver. It should always have some grunge in it. So this Radiant Platinum is perfect for that because it's just off enough. But yeah, so this is the old style GW bottle. So if you bought the old monster set, the old color set, the old creature set back in the day, these are what the paint pots looked like. And they looked like this for many years, and then they got like this, and they were little hexagons, and then they shrunk them down to the little hexagons, which I think that was. And then they had the pop tops at first, and then they had the screw top. They were all screw tops. Then they had the pop tops, and the washes had this like really shitty little eyedropper in it that all it did was spray ink everywhere. So those are garbage. And then they updated those again. Hey, what army are you working on? Army? I'm working on Escher, man. I'm not working on armies. I'm working on this. If you really want to know what army I'm working on, you're gonna have to wait until Orktober. Orktober. Will be revealed, and I think I've already kind of like laid my cards on the table at this point, because every time I mention it, I like sneak a model into the thing, and I go, oh, and then it goes away, and then it's like, oh, now you know what I'll be working on in October, or do you? Yeah, there's here, I'll show you. This thing I'm pretty pleased with. I think his banner's gonna fall off because it's not glued on though. But here's an old school Orc Dreadnought, all ready to go, all dressed up in his best Sunday reds. I may end up adding a little bit of more gray or something to it. So when I painted this, I hadn't really quite decided what my Orc army was going to look like. And then when I started looking at the models that I wanted to be using and the models that I was going to be using, and started painting them up, I realized that it was going to be a Blood Axe army. And there's some great advantages to building a Blood Axe army out of the Here We Go rulebook for Rogue Trader. So that's so that's kind of what I'm going to be doing. So if you're watching it in the stream now, you've got a sneak preview of what's going to be coming in Orktober, and the answer is orcs. Orcs will be coming in Orktober, and it's probably going to be orcs related to this guy. I have some nice. Okay, I'll give you another little sneak peek. Just because you guys deserve this sort of stuff for watching the stream for this long, you get to see this. So this is an Orc War Boss, and he's still in his blister. He's a Bad Moon boss. I'm not doing Bad Moons, but I had this model when it was first released, and don't have him no more, and now I got him again, and so at some point I'll be opening that, along with a whole bunch more blisters, but we won't get into that right now. For that Orc army, and I'll be putting that Orc army together, and I'll be doing like project vlogs as I go of what the army, like building the army, because back in Rogue Trader, building an army was a game into itself. You literally were rolling dice to see what was in your army. And Orcs do it in a ridiculous way, where you pay points to roll on a chart. And whatever you get on that chart is now part of your guy. And he doesn't have to take it into battle, but this keeps telling me I have low disk space. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, so that's we'll get into that in a few weeks, because October is very close, so I have to get these Escher finished. Hopefully this week I will get these girls finished. These are the ones that I'm painting up. You can see, I guess there's 7 of them. She's not technically in my starting gang, so I don't have to get the Death Maiden finished, but these other 6, actually I think only 2 of them are actually in my starting gang. But the goal here is to get these models finished. So I'll probably work on them tonight. I've also got kitty cats to finish for Escher as well. So I've got Hans and Franz, the little kitty cats here. And I've got a 3rd one as well. And the 4th one's still on the sprue. I hadn't even taken off the sprue. I'm going to do something different with that one. I don't know. Maybe I'll give it wings. I don't even know if I can, but who cares? Why not, right? So yeah, so that's what I'm going to get done. And then come October, where it's a month of painting orcs. And whether or not I'm painting space orcs, or I'm painting fantasy orcs, or I'm painting orcs, I don't know what orcs I have to paint. Oh, you know what I need to finish? Maybe I'll finish this. Maybe this is the first thing I will do for October, even though he has nothing to do with the Blood Axe army I'm making. Just because I do want to actually finish painting this, because this is my Gazkull, and I started painting him a few months ago, and then sort of stopped painting him at some point. And I think his horns need to be finished, and there probably needs to be some detailing done on him, but he's mostly done at this point. I have to finish the metal, so his gun definitely needs to be done. But good old Gazzy. I don't know, Alex, what are you painting for October, by the way? I know what you should be painting, but we'll see. If the answer is Rogue Trader era Astartes, then you win a prize. I don't know what that prize will be, but you win it. And you got to build them to the list in this book, because that is the Space Marine list. You don't even have to, man. Like, honestly, for what we are sort of thinking about doing, anything past the my prize is a random blister from your box. We will take a look at those models and figure something out, because obviously, in order to play Rogue Trader, you have to have an opponent with a Rogue Trader army. So it's in my best interest that you have models to play with. And in fact, anyone out there who wants to build a Rogue Trader army and come play me, that would be awesome, because there's probably not a lot of people out there who right now would be interested in playing Rogue Trader. At least not in my social circle. I'll have to see. I can probably scrounge up several. Wow, my analytics just started going bonkers. What's all that about? Like, people coming in out of the stream, 235, 55, 235, and now I'm back up to 5. I don't know how any of this works, man. I'll figure it out as I go along. Whoa, look at that. How many people? There's 7 people right now? Is that what this is telling me? Awesome. I guess. Would love to, but I'm on the other side. Well, you know what, Torben? That's the great thing about the internet, and that's the great thing about what I want to do with this channel, is to sort of reform Pangea and squeeze us all together again, because we live in an age of viruses, and I won't talk about the virus. I won't mention the virus on stream, because apparently YouTube has an issue with that. I may spout an opinion that is unacceptable to someone somewhere, but we live in an age of viruses, and it's a serious issue, and we have to rethink the way that we interact with each other. And so this becomes far more significant an aspect of human communication than it was a year ago, right? I mean, like, we've seen the rise of social media, for better or for worse, and we've seen sort of what that means to what we had before, right? But what we had before, we're probably not going to be able to go back to. In fact, here in Ontario, they're talking about huge spikes in cases because of the end of the summer. And it's happening in a lot of like people between like 20 and 30 years old. And they're saying that's because they're going outside and, you know, they're socially interacting and stuff, because that's that age where you're socially interacting a lot heavier. And you want to go out to clubs and bars and stuff. And God, that's the last thing on my mind is going out anywhere at this point. I couldn't imagine the idea of me like going to like a dance club or something like I used to do. Like, God, what a horrible, horrible idea of just sitting in a large hot room with pounding music and dark lights and can't have a conversation. So I think that this is going to become even more significant, and it's going to really form an important role. And not to say that I'm like, you know, doing anything profound and groundbreaking here. I'm just trying to, like I said, the Eternal Chronicles is me, you know, wallowing in my man-childness as much as possible. So who knows what we're going to end up, right? Who knows what's going on where I am right now? They've seen a spike. Kids are back to school. If my kid is still in school October 1st, I will be surprised. I think that, and that may even be a conservative estimate. We are liberal estimate. We may be out of school next week. We may have out of school this week. I think that a lot of people are saying Canadian Thanksgiving, which is like October 12th-ish. So like that weekend, they'll basically say, guess what? We're canceling school. Everyone's going to be homeschooled. So that means your kid now goes to school in front of a laptop staring at a computer screen for most of the day, which is utter and complete, just awful. Because kids need to socialize. Like you need to build those social skills so much. Like school is so important for that. I call playground politics, right? Like let the kids work it out on the playground, because that's what's going to serve them later in life, when they have to deal with other adults who are essentially just all children, because we all are. We're all just children of someone, right? And one thing that that 2020 has sort of taught me is that, you know, or reminded me, because I think I knew this before. I think I knew this back, you know, when I was socially interacting with a lot of people, which is that most people, you know, have no idea what they're doing in life, and they just kind of fake it, and we're all just kind of faking it because we go through. I know I'm faking it right now. And my computer keeps telling me that it doesn't have any disk space. So I'm just going to call the stream there. I've been live for an hour and 45 here. My throat's starting to get sore. What does that mean? Nothing. It just means I've been talking too much. So I'm going to do what I said I was going to do about half an hour ago, which was get up and go for a stretch and go for a walk around the block. And yeah, I don't know. I'm going to keep doing this every day at 12. I'm also going to do others, because I did 3 yesterday. Well, I did 2 yesterday, one that got split in half. Because as soon as I finished my stream yesterday, all of a sudden my news feed was filled with Hero Quest reveals. So I quickly reloaded everything and made a display cap so I could actually show my monitor screen, because I didn't have that set up yet. So that I could quickly look at the Hero Quest stuff and discuss that live. So I kind of want to do more stuff like that. So I may end up doing another video today that will be me reacting to something. I don't know. What's going on in Warhammer community? What are they showing off today? Because they have something to show off every single day. Every single day, a jackass like me could do a reaction video to what Warhammer community has posted for the day, right? And I'm pretty sure that there are many jackasses like me doing this, but or any is really, you know. All right, so I'm gonna call the stream there, and so you are all my chroniclers, I guess, Alex, since you wanted to know what I was gonna call my fans. So you guys are the army of chroniclers. That doesn't really roll off the tongue so much as like Champions Club, right? Okay, you guys are Chroniclers Club. There we go, Chroniclers Club. CC in the place to be. And on that cringy note, Judge Joseph Dredd and I are going to sign off and bid you adieu and get on with the rest of our day, because it's really nice outside and we're not going to have too many more nice days. And I will ramble on and on and on until I actually say the words goodbye and actually click my finger on my mouse to end the stream. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going and going and going. So at some point, my hand is going to have to rebel against my mouth and just commit to ending this nonsense. Can I do it? Can I do it? Come on, hand. You got it for me? All right. Peace out.